Spurs Debate TV brings you post-match analysis of Tottenham losing 1-0 to Chelsea. Chelsea outperforming Spurs on the night, but we'll look at the big chances. It was a game of two halves, and we'll look at where Tottenham got it right, where Conte got it wrong, where Thomas Tuchel outclassed Conte in certain areas, and what Spurs need to do better moving forward. This was a big opportunity missed for Tottenham to walk to Wembley and try and win their first trophy in a long time. Well, let's start with the formation and selection. 3-4-3. Fans arguing that we should go with 5 in midfield to win that midfield battle. Well, Lo Celso started up front with Kane and Moura. Harry Winks coming in for Skip. And the surprise selection there, Galini coming in for club captain, Mr. Reliable, Hugo Lloris. A big decision by Conte, which backfired. And we will go into why it backfired. Matt Doherty again on the left when he's a right-footed player. He was substituted off, Matt Doherty, on the 65th minute with Ryan Sessegnon bringing on that youth, that energy and that pace. Matt Doherty really struggling on the night, and we'll look at why. Also, you can see there Marcos Alonso shoring up the midfield. Tuchel bringing him in for Timo Werner, taking off an attacker for a defender to make life more difficult for Spurs. Brian Hill with a cameo, and Ollie Skip there coming in at the end for Harry Winks. Let's look at the first half on the left versus the second half on the right. Chelsea here dominating that first half, just like they did in the first leg at Stamford Bridge. Spurs couldn't get the ball off Chelsea. Chelsea out passing Tottenham, controlling the first half. The second half was a different story. Spurs coming out, and it was more 50-50 with chances. And you can see there Spurs with a good few chances. But on the whole, they couldn't get the goal, and it was too little too late. Let's look at the action areas. Spurs on the right-hand side having more possession and playing more football down that right-hand side. Unfortunately, the left-hand side for Tottenham, the shorter arrow, was where they struggled to penetrate. Matt Doherty not having the engine and the attacking ability to damage Chelsea down their left. Chelsea down their left-hand side with Hudson-Odoi up against Tanganga had some good possession and football. And on the right, they also attacked us. A bit more balanced there, left and right, versus Tottenham's. One of the tactics that Tuchel deployed was to have Mason Mount, number 19, Timo Werner, 11, and Lukaku, number 9, close together during the game. They rarely were found more than 5 or 6 yards apart from each other, and this was to create confusion with the man marking. So Davinson Sanchez and Ben Davies struggled to man mark these players, and I will show you some examples of that later, with Romelu Lukaku feeding in balls into those two players consistently. With Tottenham trying to keep those Chelsea 3 quiet with their Pierre, number 5, Ben Davies, and his defenders around him, Sanchez and Doherty, it did leave number 25, Japhet Tanganga, more isolated with less protection around him, and Chelsea did occupy this space we saw from the graph before. Down the left is where Chelsea had most of their possession. Tuchel getting its tactics spot on and creating opportunities down Tottenham's weakest side, which was Japhet Tanganga. Hudson-Odoi, you can see from the heat map, had a lot of joy down the left there, and that's where Chelsea had a lot of joy. Tuchel's masterclass was to drag Sanchez to the opposite direction with Davis so that Tanganga could be exploited, and we all know Tanganga has not been playing well, and this is an area that Hudson-Odoi and Kovacic constantly had success down, a tactic that Tuchel deployed really well. Conte did bring on Ollie Skip early in the second half as he recognised this problem, and he did fill in that space. Let's look at the left-hand side. Matt Doherty not attacking enough down the left. He was pulled just after half-time, but we need him to join in the attack. Tottenham's balance on the left was very poor, as we saw from the graph earlier. Their right-hand side is a lot stronger than their left. Matt Doherty not having the engine and the ability to attack and defend, which is what this wing-back system requires. Tuchel getting his tactics right on the night. So let's look at the stats, which tell us a story in itself. So you can see Chelsea in the first half, 71% ball possession. Tottenham only having the 1 shot on target. Chelsea having 3. Chelsea also with 5 corners versus Tottenham's 3. And they had that goal as well, which made it an uphill task for Tottenham. Chelsea really dominating that first half and allowing Spurs only the 1 shot on target. We can see it from the passing stats. Chelsea passing a lot better than Spurs. 3 times the passing, 410 passes with 91% accurate, which is fantastic when you compare that to averages. Tottenham's average very low, 81%. Chelsea with better long ball crosses and dribbles, really winning in every department in terms of ball possession and passing. Tottenham with the tackles there, but they couldn't get a grip of that first half and they found themselves 3-0 down at half time. However, Conte did make some changes and Spurs were better in the second half with 50-50% pretty much on the ball possession. Tottenham having 2 shots on target and making the keeper work, and also having 4 corners to Chelsea's 1. Spurs missing their chances on the night, but we did play better in the second half. Unfortunately, it was too little, too late, and Chelsea at 3-0 really had the game tied up. Tottenham a bit desperate there, trying to make it happen. Spurs did pass better with 229 passes. However, the key thing to note here is Tottenham's accuracy still low. We need to be more accurate in our passing to open up teams and create opportunities. Tottenham with some good long balls there and some dribbles, but in the end, again, it was too little too late. We did win more aerial duels, but the first half was where the damage was done, especially with Chelsea getting the 3rd goal. Antonio Conte after the game did say Tanguy Ndombele is not in the squad due to a club instruction, and that is something he had to follow. On Hugo Lloris, he mentioned that Hugo Lloris was in the 2-0 loss in the first leg and Galini deserved his chance and it wasn't a big deal. And he also went on to say we cannot compare Tottenham and Chelsea right now. It's not fair. There's a massive difference in squad and players. Conte being very honest in his analysis. Let's look at this first half long ball chance to Lukaku. We can see there Lukaku very tight up against the Tottenham defender. Malang Sarr with the long ball, and this is where Lukaku's very strong. He's got the pace and power to hold off his man, and he's got the finishing ability, and this could have been curtains early on. And you can see there Spurs not pressing Sarr enough. He gets time and space to look up and make that long ball pass into Lukaku, which he does. Lukaku controls very well, gets his shot off, and luckily for Spurs, Galini makes a very good save. Otherwise, this would have been 1-0. But this was a tactic deployed by Chelsea in the first leg, and Sanchez, if you remember, with that header, did lose Lukaku, who then missed on the day. Again, Lukaku here doing the same thing, Spurs being opened up by the long ball, which is something Conte will need to work on moving forward. Spurs, you can see here, being opened up by that 3 that stay really close together. As I spoke about earlier, you can see this as a classic example of Lukaku into Werner, and you can see there Mason Mount involved as well. Tottenham not closing down the initial ball coming into Lukaku. He's too strong for Sanchez, and you can see Ben Davies out of position. Werner with space and time, and this is where Chelsea undone us. By those 3 staying close together, Spurs lost their men quite easily with confusion, and that was a chance we survived. However, this was a goal in the end. This is poor from Lo Celso. Once he gets the ball here, he can drive down the left-hand side in the yellow direction. Unfortunately, Lo Celso passes into the Chelsea man, where Chelsea have a attack on goal. It's saved and ends up as a corner, and from that corner we suffer. But this is poor from Lo Celso. He needs to drive out wide and he needs to get Spurs out of trouble, but he doesn't. He makes an error and gives Chelsea the ball. This is confusion and poor marking from Spurs. You can see Emerson doesn't have a man in the yellow dot there. You can see in the green circle Sarr making that run into the box. Now Pierre has his eyes on Sarr. He sees the run and goes to defend and man mark him. But unfortunately behind him he leaves Antonio Rudiger on his own. Emerson should be taking Sarr and Pierre should be staying with Rudiger, but they get confused. Pierre trying to save the day, but unfortunately you can see here both men end up on the same attacker. They're trying to stop him from having a chance on goal, but this leaves Rudiger free. You can see number 2 there on his own, running in, the eventual goal scorer. Had Pierre stayed with him, he would have blocked that run. Also, we have to mention here the 3 Tottenham defenders there, ball watching, not really anticipating what's going on, and it was unfortunately too little too late for Spurs. Once Rudiger makes the run, he jumps. You can see there Pierre is stuck really under Sarr. Emerson in no man's land, and Rudiger having time and space to jump, and a clean header on goal. Galini's view may have been disrupted by Sarr jumping in front of him. However, Galini needs to do a lot better keeping his eyes on the ball and punching that out, and that would have been a clearance. Unfortunately, Spurs defenders there stuck in the mud, and Chelsea out jumping Tottenham. There you can see both Chelsea players jumping high and creating confusion for Galini, and Japhet Tanganga having very little chance to really save the day. Pierre should have stayed with his man, and this may have not been a goal. Emerson should have kept an eye on Sarr. Unfortunately for Tottenham, it was 1-0 to Chelsea and 3-0 on aggregate. Something Conte needs to work on the training ground with the players in terms of zonal and man marking. Let's look at this Harry Kane chance. This was an opportunity for Tottenham. He does get crowded out, and Chelsea there you can see there's 6 or 7 of them behind the ball. This was a tactic to keep Kane quiet, and they did put men behind the ball, almost looking to play on the counter. Tottenham with just the 4 men in the box. If Spurs want to win games, they need to put more men in the box. You can see there a couple of Tottenham players not in the box, and Kane hitting into a wall of Chelsea defenders. This was good to see from Tottenham in the second half. One touch passing, quicker passing, better tempo. We did open up Chelsea in the first leg in the second half with better passing, and we did it again here. You can see a touch into Lucas Moura, who outpaces his man, leaves his marker into Ben Davies and down into the wings. Spurs need to play better one-touch passing if they are to open up better teams, and this was a classic example of Tottenham stepping up. One of the areas Tottenham have improved in is with Conte using Sanchez as a aerial threat from corners. We've seen this with Davinson Sanchez in the last few weeks. He gets up high and tall and scores or sets up goals, and he's done it again almost here on the night. He gets up nice and tall with the flick on, one from the training ground into the back post, waiting for Spurs to attack that back post for a tap in and a shot on target. We nearly pulled it off here. The perfect corner into Sanchez with that flick on, and Harry Kane one off the training ground, making that late run into the back post for the tap in. How many times have we seen Kane do this? Unfortunately, Harry was just a few seconds off, and this chance went begging. This definitely would have been 1-1 and put Spurs back into the game. Harry Kane was one of the best Tottenham players on the night. He was unlucky not to get a couple of goals. He even could have had a hat-trick. Unfortunately for Spurs, it did not go his way, but he was the main threat for Tottenham moving forward. We see here something which is great to see. Conte has introduced this, closing down and breaking up play. You can see the blue arrow, the ball going into the Chelsea defender. But there you can see Ben Davies making that run from behind to win the ball. This is something Lucas Moura does really well, and it's great to see Ben Davies here winning the ball, which sets up an attack for Tottenham. Spurs need to do more of this against the better teams to win back possession. Tottenham did have a couple of penalty shouts, this one being the first one. Højbjerg clearly fouled. If there's any Chelsea fans or football fans saying any different, they are wrong. There's a clear foul on Højbjerg. You can see Rudiger's knee on Højbjerg's knee and his leg going across his body over his shin and stopping him from running. Højbjerg went down, and this was a clear foul. Unfortunately, it was outside the box. Otherwise, this would have been a penalty. Tottenham continue to attack. Here we see Harry Kane. He's just beat 3 men with a dazzling dribble, taking on and outpacing the Chelsea midfield and defenders. Great to see Harry Kane in this mood, and we need to see more of this for Spurs to win. Spurs going through Kane for the counter transition, and we've seen this time and time again. Heung-min Son, Lucas Moura with their pace, outdoing the opposition. Here, Harry Kane's pass was overcooked. He could have released it earlier, and Lucas Moura would have been in on goal one-on-one. There was question marks on this being a penalty, but Kepa does make that run, and he does well and clears the ball, saving Chelsea. Lucas Moura there, yes, he goes down, but you can see here he's not fouled, and the ball is cleared clearly. Harry Kane, unfortunately, with that pass, had he let it go a bit earlier, Spurs would have been in, and that was another chance that went begging. Tottenham, however, continued to attack and nearly unlocked the door on the left-hand side here. Spurs on the left having very few attacks and opportunities, with Matt Doherty struggling to attack. But here we see Ben Davies showing how it's done. He makes that run in behind the Chelsea defence, and he has an opportunity here to cross the ball in. Tottenham really need to work on this and making those late runs in behind from width. And this was a great opportunity which Emerson eventually headed on goal, and it was saved by Kepa. But let's see here, he doesn't go for the safe pass, the long pass into Ben Davies. And at this point, Ben Davies there, you've got 4 Chelsea defenders, 2 Tottenham players attacking, and this is all about the cross. If the quality of the cross is good enough, then it gives Tottenham a chance regardless of the number of men in the box. It would be good to see Spurs put more men in the box in these positions, something Conte will want to work on. The commitment to move forward in this kind of move is important, and here Kepa makes a great save from the Emerson header. Again, more closing down from Spurs. This next move is all about Pierre Højbjerg closing down his man. We've seen it earlier with Ben Davies. Spurs working on winning the ball back, getting position back, and then counter transitioning. We do this a lot and we get a lot of success from it, and Tottenham doing it again in the second half. Pierre winning the ball, Lucas Moura there blocking his man, Kepa with the pass out. Once Pierre wins the ball, it's into Kane from Lucas, and unfortunately Kane is just offside. But the great thing to see here is Tottenham winning the ball back. We've seen Lucas Moura do it in the first leg. We now see Pierre Højbjerg doing it, and we've seen Ben Davies do it earlier in the second half. Spurs using this tactic well to run in behind, win the ball, and here the ball from Lucas Moura to Kane is just slightly too late, returning the favour from that earlier Kane pass. Kane was slightly offside. Otherwise, this would have been 1-1. Harry Kane here in the last few minutes, dribbling past 3 Chelsea defenders. He really was on form and he's getting back to himself. Great to see. Here he takes on the defenders, keeps the ball in the box, and then the perfect pass into Ryan Sessegnon, who takes a shot on target. But great to see Tottenham putting men in the box. There's 6 players here. We need to do more of this to really cause confusion in the opposition box. That was the last attack of the game and your post-match analysis. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts on Conte's selection, his formation, Galini coming in, Skip being dropped, and Lo Celso starting up front. What's your thoughts on Tanguy and Ndombele? My next analysis will be after the North London derby, where Tottenham play Arsenal on Sunday, the big one. Let me know your thoughts. Do give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.